Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, Exemptions, Legal Status Types, information designed by James R. Lorenzato and presented by Mark Lorenzato for VideoHealthGuide.com. This is video number 4 of Series A. The Affordable Care Act statute let people off the hook for the need to get minimum essential coverage in various ways, but we treat them all here as forms of exemption. Exemptions are calculated by the month. You are exempt for a month if you are exempt for even one day of the month. There are 4 ways to get exemptions. 1. For some you don't do anything. 2. For some you get them from the IRS with your tax return. 3. Some you get from the marketplace, which gives you a certification of exemption that you later give to the IRS. Some you get from either earlier from the marketplace or later from the IRS. A person can qualify for more than one exemption and can apply for all marketplace granted ones at the same time. All IRS granted ones are applied for with the tax return. For each exemption, we will tell you where to apply for it. Exemptions about who you are and what you earn. The exemptions divide into 2 types. One type is about your legal status, about who you are. The other type is means tested, about what you earn. In this video, we will address all the exemptions about legal status, those that depend on who you are. In later videos, we'll discuss the exemptions that depend on your means, those that involve your earnings. We have included all the major rules here, but there are always some details you'll want to check to see if you can use that exemption. You are exempt if you are dead. 2. Not lawfully present or a non-resident alien. 3. A U.S. citizen living abroad. 4. A resident of U.S. territories. 5. Incarcerated. 6. A member of a federally recognized Indian tribe or a qualified Indian. 7. A member of a religious sect that forbids insurance. 8. A member of a health care sharing ministry. 9. In a short-term coverage gap. Now we'll address each of these separately. You are exempt if for at least one day of the month you are dead. The IRS says that a person must be in existence for the entire month, and you do not need to do anything to get this exemption. 2. Not lawfully present or a non-resident alien. You are exempt if for at least one day of the month you are not lawfully present in the United States, and only the IRS grants this exemption if you file a tax return. Otherwise, you don't need to do anything. Undocumented aliens can't buy on the marketplace, but U.S. citizens can cover undocumented family members without tax credits. If you are a non-resident alien as defined by Section 7701B1B of the Tax Code, meaning you haven't established legal permanent resident status, you are exempt. A non-resident alien who must file a tax return must get the exemption from the IRS. 3. U.S. citizen living abroad. You are exempt if at least one day of the month is in a period when you are a United States citizen residing outside the country and you are either 1. A bona fide resident of a foreign country for an uninterrupted tax year, normally a calendar year, or 2. Have a tax home outside the United States or in foreign parts for at least 300 full days during a period of 12 consecutive months as further defined using Tax Code Section 911. The IRS grants the exemption with the Section 911 tax return. 4. A bona fide resident of U.S. territories. You are exempt if at least one day of the month you are a bona fide resident of a U.S. territory. Bona fide means that under Tax Code Section 937A, you 1. Do not have a tax home in the mainland and don't have a closer connection to the U.S. than to the territory, and 2. Are present in the territory at least 183 days of the tax year with the days figured under the principles of Tax Code Section 7701B. The IRS says you don't need to do anything to be exempt. If you file income tax return, the IRS makes the exemption. Although residents of territories are exempt, there will still be marketplaces for qualified health plans in the territories. 5. Incarcerated. You are exempt if at least one day of the month you are incarcerated, which means confined in a jail, prison, or similar penal institution or correctional facility after disposition of charges. You can claim the exemption from the marketplace, but the marketplace, 1, will only provide the exemption after the fact and not for future confinement, and 2, won't accept an application after December 31st of a given calendar year for months in that calendar year. Alternatively, you can claim the exemption from the IRS with your tax return filing for that year. A member of an Indian tribe. There are 2 possible exemptions for Indians. You are exempt if at least one day of the month you are a member of a federally recognized Indian tribe under Tax Code Section 45A C6. You can get a permanent exemption from the marketplace as a member of a recognized tribe that is retrospective for past years and prospective for future years, or until you revoke it, or you can get an exemption from the IRS with your tax return filing for that year. A separate hardship exemption exists for those who qualify as eligible for federal Indian Health Service but aren't members of a federally recognized tribe. You get this exemption only from the marketplace, and it is prospective and retrospective on a continuing monthly basis as long as you qualify. Member of a religious sect that forbids insurance. You are exempt if at least one day of the month you are a member and adherent of a religious sect that complies with Tax Code Section 1402G1, which means a sect that 1. Doesn't believe in health insurance, 2. provides adequate health care to its members, 3. has existed at all times since December 31st, 1950, and 4. is recognized by the Commissioner of Social Security. This is the same standard of exemptions on religious conscious grounds from Social Security or Medicare taxes. Only the marketplace grants this exemption, and it is permanent and both retrospective and prospective, or until you revoke it. When a member of a sect turns age 21, that person may reapply to the exemption. When the marketplace issues a certification, you provide that to the IRS with your tax return. A member of a healthcare sharing ministry. You are exempt if at least one day of the month you are a member of a federally exempt healthcare sharing ministry defined by Tax Code Section 501c3, which means it is tax exempt. Members hold ethical and religious beliefs in common and share medical expenses. Members retain membership after they develop a medical condition. The ministry performs an annual publicly available audit by an independent certified public accountant using generally accepted accounting principles. The ministry has existed at all times since December 31st, 1999. You get a retrospective exemption only for the past year from the marketplace, but the marketplace won't accept any application after December 31st of the year. Or you can get an exemption from the IRS with your tax return filing for that year. In a short-term coverage gap, you are exempt for a month if the last day of the month falls in a short-term coverage gap. A short-term gap is less than 3 consecutive calendar months without MEC or another exemption. If you go more than 3 months, you lose the whole exemption. If you have more than one gap a year, only the earliest counts. Under IRS transition rules, uninsured employees and their eligible family members can enroll in employer plans with plan year starting after January 1st, 2014, and will be exempt between January 1st and the month in 2014 when their plan year starts, and this time won't count as a coverage gap. If a gap straddles 2 calendar years, a special rule lets you file your tax return and claim this year's gap, but it can hurt you next year. You can get this exemption from the IRS with your tax return filing. Next, exemptions mean tested types, more Affordable Care Act exemptions. Exemptions take up 3 more videos. Choose the videos that fit best. You've just watched depending upon legal status and depending upon what you earn or can afford is the next, then lack of affordable coverage, employer coverage, then lack of affordable coverage, private plans. I hope these videos are helping you. Thank you. This is Mark Lorenzato from videohealthguide.com.